If there's any recommendations, please, provide. Jim?
It's not necessarily a recommendation so much as it is a concern when we talk about recruiting some of our future leaders. I'm Jim Campbell from the Makah tribe. Mine is more of a comment or a concern of some of the things that I see in some of the Indian communities that I've lived in. When we talk about how are we going to recruit or retrain our youth to fill our spots in forestry. And one of the things I think we need to battle or try and overcome is the negativity in the community. In my generation, certainly in the generation in front of me, we grew up hearing bad things about the BIA, bad things about the tribe, a whole bunch of negativity. And our children, or the generations that we hope to recruit in to take our place, are growing up with that negativity, and they're hearing that. And I think we need to do something about it, combat it in any way we can in our communities.
I know, I tell this story when I talk with younger forest managers. I went back to, the interesting thing, I went back to be forest manager at Umatilla where my father, I'm enrolled in Umatilla, went back to where my father grew up at Umatilla, and I also went back, my mother grew up in Spokane, so I went to Spokane to be forest manager. So you can imagine going back to two different families, and it was interesting to compare the support from the families or the communities that I experienced. That one, there's both sides that maybe the kids don't hear enough. There was one side, you'll hear in Indian country, this tribal leader told me this, was male, and he says, when you're a leader in Indian country, never expect to get thanked. That was one thing, he could tell I was having a tough time at Umatilla, and I was thinking to myself, there has, when I looked at this, there has to be a better way. But when I went, this is at Spokane, there was an elder lady came up to me, and I was in the council room. I had lattes over here, and I had the tribal council over here. And guess who was in the middle? I felt like the referee, and the referees, wears the black hat a lot of times. And the thing that inspired me, and I tell other younger tribal members, is what she told me. She says, she told me, well, when you're in that council room, you've got your manager jacket on. When you're outside that council room, take your manager jacket off, you're still one of the community. So I always remember that I think that I remember as a manager, that you worry so much about the community, whether you're the fire boss or the forest manager or whatever, I could even say the tribal council, because it's a lot of, you feel like it's a 24-hour job, 24/7 job when, people come up to you when you have a job and they don't. They remind you. I remember being called Bill Gates. When I was no, this is a true story. When I was at Spokane and somebody came in for a cutting permit and wanted to earn some money, and there was, we had to process and do all this other stuff, and he said, because I had a job, my job at the time was maybe $35,000. $35,000 job in the Indian community, you are Bill Gates. He said, you got a job, you're Bill Gates in our community. He said, what are you going to do to help me? And I remember that. That's one reason why I still keep on working. I still remember those times. But there are good things. That's what these programs help you get through. You got to have a sense of humor. You're not going to survivance here in Indian country. If you don't have a sense of humor, you're not going to make it. Thank God we all have a sense of humor in Indian country. I appreciate that, because it is a concern. That's it. Please fill out your evaluation forms. Enjoy the banquet.